Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to 90 Day Fiancé latest news. The evening was cold. The sky above the vacant road stretched dark and unbroken. One hand lightly on the steering wheel, the other drumming against his thigh in time with the music playing through the speakers. Jamal Menzies felt relaxed behind the wheel. From far away, the city lights blushed yellow and white. It was meant to be simply another drive, ordinary, uninteresting. He was not racing. He paid close attention. He had driven this path innumerable times before. Still, everything collapsed in the space of a single glance. A little change in the road. The smallest vibration in the tires. A change in direction. There felt to be something awry. His senses intensifying, his hands naturally clenched on the wheel. Then it took place. The automobile jerked sharply. The tires slipped off their hold. His hands felt alien on the steering wheel, not following. Fishtailed in the rear of the car, the whole vehicle slid sideways over the road. No, not. In his ears, his pulse screamed. His breath stayed in his throat. Trying to offset the slide, he yanked the wheel, but the tires skidded wildly. He no longer controlled the car. The outer world turned into a blur, a whirl of motion akin to a carousel run on streetlights. The impact followed then. Metal bending, glass breaking, his body propelled forward as the power of the collision rippled through him. A thunderous explosion of sound. His head leaned sideways. The airbag exploded, a wall of white slamming into his chest and face, depriving his lungs of oxygen. Everything stopped only for a second. His ears echoed with a ring. He made a try-it movement. Sharp and electrifying, pain erupted right away. His right hand pulsed like it had been smushed. His whole body felt as though it had gone through a war. Aches blossoming in areas he had not ever considered could be painful. Curled into the air was smoke. He could smell gasoline and burnt rubber. Under the streetlights, his smashed windshield glittered. A far-off siren cried, louder with every second that passed. She was still alive, but he really saw for the first time in his life how narrow the line separating life from non-living. Aftermath. The worst nightmare of a mother. The call arrived somewhat before midnight. Kim Menzies had been half asleep on her couch, the TV flickering weakly in the background. Her phone buzzed. She scowled, groggily reached blindly for it. She failed to identify the number. But she sat up, unexpectedly wide awake. Something, an instinct, a deep-rooted fear. Hello. Her voice sounded heavy with sleep, but it sharpened right away with the next words. Ms. Menzies? Mercy General Hospital is this one. Jamal, your kid, had an accident. The planet spun. On the other side, the voice was steady, practiced, used for news delivery much like this. Kim, though, was not ready to hear it. Her fingers gripped the phone so hard that her knuckles became white. Her breath stopped. What do you imply? Is he? Her voice stopped. Ma'am, he's steady. He has consciousness. He is currently under treatment, nevertheless, and has injuries. Constant. That was meant to be comforting. But for a mother whose son had recently been informed had just been in an automobile accident, the term meant nothing. She failed to recall hanging, not recall reaching for her keys. Her heart thumping so loudly she could hardly think as she ran across the streets. Her mind created the worst, images of Jamal broken, bleeding, dead. Her hands shook in time with the wheel. Her chest was tight, and her breathing was irregular by the time she broke into the hospital. Before she was racing toward his room, the front desk receptionist hardly had time to offer her directions. She then caught sight of him. Jamal was in a hospital bed, his right hand encircled in tight bandages. Along his temple a large bruise was developing. His normally certain, easy energy vanished, replaced by tiredness, pain, and something else she had never seen in his eyes before. Weakness. She muttered, "Oh my God," her voice cracking. Jamal. At her words his eyes flicked open. Notwithstanding all, he managed a feeble smile. Mother. It required just that to be there. The dam went down. Kim's eyes welled with tears as she hurried to his side. Her hands hovered over him as though she were terrified touching him would cause further damage. You scared me to death, she gasped out. What went on? You good? Oh my God. Jamal let out a measured breath. I'm fine, he responded, although the wince that followed said differently. It could have been far worse. Kim looked across at the doctor standing close by. What's wrong with him? How unfortunate is it? Her voice was strong, yet underlying it fear lurked. The doctor ran over his notes. Jamal is immensely fortunate. He developed a sprained hand, some bruises, and some whiplash. Not one internal injury or shattered bone. Kim sank on the chair next to his bed, shaking hands to her mouth. She was inundated with relief in waves. But he is in suffering, she said softly. After a crash like this, that is expected. His body suffered a great deal. But he will heal completely with rest and physical treatment. Kim held Jamal's good hand and exhaled quiveringly. She said softly, "You have no idea how lucky you are." Jamal's pupils grew black. "Oh, I do," he answered softly. "Trust me, I do." Reflection and support word of the accident traveled quickly. Messages from friends, supporters, and fellow 90 Day Fiancé cast members poured onto social media. Jamal praying for a quick healing. "Kim, we love you. Continue to be strong. This could have been far worse. Happy you are still with us, man." Kim turned over the messages, tears building once more. There was an unbelievable amount of help, but the anxiety persisted. She wiped at her eyes, facing the camera in a calm hospital corridor. "I never have been this terrified in my life," she said. "Breaking me was seeing my son like that. Until it affects your own child, you always believe these things happen to other people." Jamal woke up in his room, fixed on the ceiling. Over and over in his head the accident replayed. The powerlessness, the loss of management. He had always felt quite strong, but life has a way of swiftly demeaning you. "I simply am glad to be alive," he said. "Things might have been far worse." The journey to recovery 2 days later, Jamal was let go. Walking down the hospital corridor, Kim at his side hovering like a mother hen, his motions were languid. Rolling his eyes, "Mom, I'm good," he said. Kim laughed and snorted. "Sure, and I am Beyoncé as well." Jamal sank on the couch with a groan, straightening his injured hand, when they at last arrived home. "Guess I'll need some help for a while," he said. Kim opened her arms and grinned. "You bet, oh, and never even consider soon driving behind the wheel." They laughed, first in days and then again. Though it hadn't completely disappeared, there was respite from the anxiety. One was thankful. Mostly of all, there was love. Ultimately, then, that was all that counted. This gossip is over. If you liked the video, then give your opinion in the comment box and stay with us by subscribing the channel. Thank you.